What's up, guys? I'm going to do another unpackaging vlog of some things that I ordered recently and which I just got. They're all R.L. Stine books, as to be expected, and so I'm just going to jump into doing this and talk about each one. So, the first two I ordered and got are two Goosebumps books. These are, if you follow my channel, you know anything about me, you know I love R.L. Stine, and you know I love the original Goosebumps. I'm working on collecting all of the original Goosebumps series, preferably with the vintage covers, because that cover art was awesome, as opposed to the shitty book covers they have for them now. I don't own all of them, so I'm trying to steadily get all of them. I plan on, if I have all of them this October, that's going to be Goosebumps month, and I'm going to do a mini review on each and every one of the original 62 books in that series. But this is the 12th book in the series. It's called Be Careful What You Wish For. It's about a girl who is picked on at school, and she doesn't like herself and doesn't like her appearance and doesn't, like anything about herself. She runs into this strange woman who can grant wishes, and it's a cautionary tale about, be careful what you think you want. You may not actually want it once you get it. Kind of reminiscent of the monkey's paw kind of thing. It's one of those old school, morality stories of be grateful for what you have and don't fuck with the natural order of things. So that's it. The other Goosebumps book I just got in was The Haunted Mask 2. This is the 36th book in the series and is a sequel to the first Haunted Mask, wherein it's a story about a girl named Carly Beth who is always picked on again, and her friends are always teasing her and playing jokes on her. So she decides for Halloween she's going to get like a really scary-ass mask and scare them for a change. And so she goes to this little corner shop of masks and finds this really disgusting one. She puts it on, and then she's unable to take it off, and the mask starts slowly taking her over. Well, of course there had to be a sequel to it. This time it's one of our friends who wants to do the same thing. Same thing happens. Bada boom, bada bing. You got The Haunted Mask 2. So, and look at that cover. It's a pretty great cover. This is why the original cover is by Tim Jacobus. Just amazing. And I don't even know why they would reprint the Goosebumps books now, unless they have those kick-ass cover art with them. There's no point in it. The covers they have now are just shitty, and don't even fit the tone or style of the series. But I digress. So moving on, this is in my other section of the vlog. I have some teen horror novels that I was one. So first up, I got The Babysitter. This was one of the first teen thrillers I'd read by R.L. Stine. I read it several years ago. It's about a girl named Jenny who is experienced as a babysitter. She's a 16-year-old high school girl. She's watching this young boy while her father goes out at night, I think to work, or he has dates or something. And she starts getting threatening phone calls, and someone starts stalking her, and it's very reminiscent of the 70s, 80s slasher films, except there's no slasher stuff in this. It's like a slasher movie without the slasher part. It's more just a young high school girl being terrorized by some crazy guy, essentially. A lot of R.L. Stine's teen thrillers are kind of similar in that respect, that they're usually about a high school girl or a high school boy who is terrorized by some crazy person. And, sorry, my voice is fucking hoarse, I don't know when. And they have to go up against them and come out the other end alive, because the person's deranged and is trying to kill them. This was actually one of the first he wrote. This was published in the late 80s. He had started his career writing teen thrillers in the mid-80s. So anyways, That's one of the early ones. Also, another teen thriller he wrote called Curtains. This is a little known one. Most people like know him for The Babysitter or The Snowman or The Beach House, or those are some of his more well-known thrillers for teens. This one's a little lesser known, Curtains. It's interesting because it's kind of like over the top. It's almost like, it's about a girl that's like a secret, and then like this director from Broadway comes to direct a play, and then her, she's cornered, because these things start coming up. Things start being slowly revealed. So it's kind of a weird premise. It's a little over the top and goofy, and I don't know if that was the intention or not, but it's probably like meant to be a comedy a little bit. I feel like R.L. Stine was kind of like, I want to write like a teen thriller that's also like a funny, over the top, silly one too. Which he does often blend humor into his thriller stories. And lastly, we have The Dead Girlfriend. This is another one that I feel like is lesser known amongst his teen thrillers. Again, I think people know more for, like I said, The Babysitter, Halloween Night, Beach House, The Snowman. I think, those are some of his more well-known horror teen thrillers. Ones like Curtains, Twisted, Beach Party, and The Dead Girlfriend, I think, are more overlooked. But this one's pretty simple. It's a really straightforward story. It's about a girl who meets this guy, and she thinks he's cool and everything. And she finds out that he had a girlfriend before who died, but he won't tell her how. And she starts getting suspicious. And this guy starts looking less and less, like a rose. And and apparently his girlfriend isn't dead after all. So, the plot thickens. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's all pretty generic teen stuff, but I like it, I like mysteries in general. I like thrillers in general. And R.L. Stine is, there's a charm about his stuff. Because he writes, his stuff for teenagers is a lot more believable and relatable than like something like the Goosebumps, which the Goosebumps books I consider more just kind of campy fun. They're not scary in the slightest. They're more just like interesting or bizarre adventure stories with like some supernatural stuff. His teen thrillers, though, like The Dead Girlfriend, they're a little more believable. They're a little more like, oh shit, that can actually happen. What if you did meet like some cool guy and you started dating him, and you find out that he had a girlfriend that died mysteriously, and he won't tell you. That makes sense. Also, they're just a little more well written. They're a little more serious. So they're more plausible in what could happen. If I had to make a critique against his teen thrillers, it would be that he still tries to incorporate unfunny jokes and unfunny humor in them. Usually there's a side character that says goofy shit that isn't funny. But the serious parts of, the actual plot and some of the things that happen, those are well done and they're plausible. They're very interesting. So that's what I like about his teen thrillers. I think they're more, serious and they're more believable, and therefore I like them a little more. Don't get me wrong, I love Goosebumps, obviously. I'm collecting them. And I still read them. And I'm looking forward to the new Goosebumps 2 movie coming out. But I like them for different reasons. I like Goosebumps because they're silly little campy, kids, horror, thriller, adventure stories. Some of them are just straight up sci-fi or fantasy. Some of them are overtly comical even. And I grew up with them, and I loved them. I read as much of them as I could when I was a kid, and I'm still reading ones that I didn't get around to then now. So there is an appeal there, and he, and the thing about R.L. Stine is, even though some of his stories like Goosebumps are campy and they're silly, he knows how to write kids. He knows how to write kids that are believable, that actually feel like real kids, that kids reading can relate to. He knows how to describe things without going into too much detail. He knows how to keep a plot going. I mean, he's a talented writer, even if some of the things he writes are just a little silly. And the same goes for his teen thrillers. They're more believable and interesting. They're a lot more relatable. To teenagers, I feel like reading this. And plus the plots in these are actually a lot more relatable. Except Curtains, I think, is a little silly, but something like The Babysitter, that could easily happen. And the scary thing about it is, the thing that's creepy about it is it could happen now just as much as it could in the 80s when this was written. Except the difference between now and then was like, now if Ginny was being harassed, she could just use her cell phone and call the cops. She tries to use a landline in this,